This right here is Stephon Castle, and once he gets to that launch pad, well, it's pretty much over.
Oh my goodness! Stephon Castle!
And don't think for 1 second that his impact stops there, as when he's en route to go double Durant, this is a risky play since he's leaving his man uncovered right near the basket. But this is where his trust in his quick hands come into play as he gets a hand on the pass to force the turnover, and if you're late getting back, well, this is what happens next. Listen, Castle is an amazing player, so much so that he's the youngest player in NBA history to drop a 40-point triple-double. Yeah, that right there is nothing you can just look past. But at the same time, we have to be honest about Castle. He's not a true point guard how some people are choosing to view him and how he was used at times during the season. He's a dog who wins with pressure, physicality, and hustle. And if you didn't pick up on anything else this season, that's one thing you should easily notice today. See, some guys are really polished, clean with their game, and can do things in more of a calm way, but Castle is the opposite, and he brings pure energy to the game. That's why in today's video brought to you by ProdGxm, I want you all to see why Stephon Castle makes basketball exhausting for opponents and entertaining for everyone who watches. Now look, the obvious elephant in the room is around Castle's turnovers, and I want you to think about the difference between a true point guard and a scorer who's been handed the point guard duties out of necessity. A guy like Chris Paul or Dylan Harper on this team, they have more of a natural feel when it comes to pacing and setting up their teammates. Castle's natural instinct is to put pressure on you and make you pay physically. Even on the night of his 40-point triple-double, he said it himself. He started off the game trying to find his teammates, screening for them, getting them easy looks, and it wasn't until the defense stopped respecting that he took over completely. This isn't a bad approach, but that's not a true point guard's game plan. That's a scorer who is being generous with the ball until the moment calls for something else. Many of us who watch the playoffs seen these times where Castle would get caught in bad situations like this, and instead of making the easy pass like Champagne is pointing out as well, Castle makes it harder for himself by trying to send a pass across the court, and the reason this is picked off is because McCain split the difference between both offensive players easily, which then allowed him to jump over to grab this one out the air. Other times when you look at his timing, this is where I say the natural feel has to be there already. As on cuts like this, the ball needs to lead a player to a spot, not be falling behind the player. And what I mean by that is that Castle should have already had the pass in motion if Harper was his intended target. But when a pass is a split second late, that's all the defense needs to get a hand on it, and yet again you have another turnover. See, when you look at Castle, it's not that he's a bad passer, as he dished out 7 assists last season, which ranked him at 8th in the entire league with all players that played at least 50 games. But when you factor in the 3 turnovers a game, that's when people start to have pushback on him not being a good facilitator. When you watch the film, you can see a lot of his turnovers come from not having a solid plan of action before getting in a tough spot, or if it's not him sending a pass, it'll be his ball security that can get him tied up at times, which results in a turnover. Sure, does the problem look bad on paper? Maybe so, but when you watch him, you can see that these things can easily be fixed with more time on the floor, and honestly, you can give a player like him some grace when these things happen, because on the opposite of all of this, Castle can provide you with these type of moments.
Gets inside, that comes up short, Castle right there, and it rolls in.
And just to show you the intensity he plays at, he proceeds to do this.
Wide open against this zone. Ooh. If you miss from the corner, Castle takes care of it on the other side of the bucket.
Now yes, these plays get us all out our seat, and that's all because of the hustle in Castle's game. Like you tell me, how many players are sprinting from the 3-point line off a missed free throw to then get the putback? Honestly, it's not many, and that's why you can live with some of the careless turnovers. Now hold on, before y'all get mad at me, this isn't to say that he shouldn't clean them up, but it's to show you the trade-off you get with players like this. And then when you actually start to use Castle the right way and he approaches the game that comes to him naturally, well, this is when you're in for a very long night. If you all just seen what I've seen, then you clearly see that when Castle has the runway set for him, that's when his game starts to completely open up. In these transition scenarios, defenders can try and get in front of him to deter him from scoring inside, but he has a craftiness to his game that allows him to work around defenders to still score. Let's say there's one defender in his way while he attacks, well, driving towards the left side is all a setup, as we can see multiple defenders that way. So that's when Castle initiates that spin move to get right in front of the rim for the layup. Other times, it may just be him running the floor, which lands him in a heavily contested approach, but this is where he used that up and under to avoid the block from Williams and slip this in right under chest contest for the bucket. And then when he's coming up the floor at a calm pace and receives a screen from Wemby, this is where the floodgates open. Because with Gobert up high and Randall having to be up guarding the screen here, this leaves the paint uncovered, and basically this is an open playground for Castle.
The runners and the floaters. Oh, Castle in the sky!
See, for electric guards like Castle, the last thing you want to do is allow them to get their energy charged up. Every made basket on the fast break basically adds a little more power to his battery, so once he's in that half-court setting, he's fully ready to go. I mean, he'll start to get shifty with that handle to make defenders buckle before going to slam it through. His footwork gets to be put on display as he evades tough situations to still score it, and best believe that with all this energy comes strength, and if you're in his way, well, you might as well just move. This ability to attack the defense in many different ways is what makes him one of the most exhausting covers in the league. With defenders in today's NBA getting called for a lot of hand checks, you have to play a lot more careful with guys who put a lot of pressure on the rim, and with Castle using his physicality to create space, it makes it 10 times harder for a defender to counteract that. At his 6'6", 250-pound stature, he's considered a big guard, especially when you match him up with Jamal Murray, and this is where you can see the strength of his just allow him to get wherever he wants on the floor. This physicalness isn't just left for guards either, as Castle will go right at guys bigger than him to make it look simple when moving them off, and then when he can't get all the way to the basket, Castle will body into a defender while hopping into his shot, and this right here is pure cash. Listen, I know a lot of people will call this type of bump, or what most people refer to as a push-off, is an offensive foul. But when a defender is on you like this as you're driving, I believe you should be able to get him off you to create some space as long as it's not egregious. But overall, I want both defenders and offensive players to be able to make more contact on the floor. Like, I love it when defenders can play aggressive with guys to get them to speed up to force a turnover. And then on the opposite side, I love it when offensive players can all out move players back when they're met with physicality. This overall makes the game more exciting for us basketball lovers, and for those of you that don't like it, well, it's good that this isn't the only way Castle can go score. He has many different ways he can pick apart the defense offensively besides using just brute force. But before we get into that, we must hear a word from our sponsor. If you know you can play responsibly and have the means to do so, PrizePicks is the #1 app for sports picks. When you go to PrizePicks, you'll see many different sports to choose from, along with many different categories to select picks. It's pretty easy. All you do is pick more on a player's stats or less, and it puts them in your lineup. And if you want, PrizePicks now offers team picks where you either pick the winner, spread, or total and simply lock it in. Here's how simple it is to add picks for a lineup. For example, Kelsey Mitchell for more than 19 points, let's do it. Caitlin Clark for more than 1-3, let's choose that also. And then after going through and locking in more picks, I can finalize my lineup and let the magic happen. And the greatest part about this is that PrizePicks is available in over 40 states, including California, Florida, Texas. And if you sign up for PrizePicks with code HMA, play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. That's right, PrizePicks just switched up their offer. So lock in, win that first lineup, and that's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. So either download the app or click the link in my description to get started. Now, like I said, there are plenty of ways that Castle can attack the defense, and it's highly important that we highlight his off-ball movement. Of course, his ability to put the ball on the deck himself to go create something is what catches the eyes immediately, but before we go deep into that, you have to understand why he can even drive so good in the first place. When it comes to moving without the ball, you have to have absurd court recognition and be able to spot angles and a quickness. It truly starts with the little things, such as on this play, you're going to see Castle hesitate for a split second, and that's not because he's unsure what to do. This all has to do with timing and reading the play. The perfect time to cut is once Wemby has the ball, as he knows Bridges will be forced to step up, and this is where you get plays like this. Yeah, quite athletic, right? I know, it's entertaining to see, even when it's on these cuts that don't take a lot for him, but complete the flashy play with an emphatic slam. Now that I showed y'all a little bit, I'm not gonna bore you with the cutting, because I understand that you want to see how he creates with the ball in his hands. But I needed to start off with a foundation of why he can even choose the right points to attack from. Because now when you allow him to cook by himself, Castle can realize when the attack isn't fully working, to then use the screen as a decoy to spin away from Terrence Shannon. And now look, we have the perfect pursuit angle, and with no knees in on the floor, there's truly nothing he could do. Using a handle like this can sometimes get you in trouble when it comes to over dribbling, but when you use every dribble to get to a certain spot and then you can add in footwork with it to get a step on your defender, this is when you know your navigation skills are truly elite. When going at KD, he gets stopped here to then not only use a slight bump, but he pairs that with a behind the back to shift directions, and then the step back is added in for good measure. Simply put, that's just tough, and it's putting all his skills together that make him a hard matchup to stop. All it truly takes is one quick move to get the advantage to attack downhill, and even though it may look as if it's about to be a sticky situation, Castle used the decel on those last two steps to throw the defender's timing off, and now he gets the and one. This here is what you need in the NBA, and what I'm referring to is craftiness. With all players on the NBA level having the ability to score, it no longer becomes if you can score and more about how you do it. Some guys are stuck in a mental box where they can only play physical to make way for themselves, some will only use the speed and their high flying, but with Castle, you can see that even though he plays with a lot of energy, he still is pretty composed when it comes to getting to his spots on the floor, whether it be from the mid-range or getting all the way to the cup. A big thing with him can be his ball security on some of these drives, as it does invite a lot of hands to be in the cookie jar when he's attacking, but then again, that's why he has that physical trait that allows him to shield the ball from defenders. Anytime I watch the Spurs, I would already know that Castle could get inside the 3-point line anytime he wanted, and then 9 times out of 10, he could get all the way to the rim. It was just about what he was going to do once he got there. When we pull up the numbers, Castle converted on 64% of his attempts in the restricted area, and in the mid-range, he knocked down shots at a 44% rate. Immediately, you can see the eye test and the numbers where Castle can be effective on the floor, but there is something we have to be real about. Castle is a confident player who doesn't really hesitate when he sees angles or if he's open. And on one end, this can be a good thing, but on the other, it can be a danger simply because he's not a great 3-point shooter. With only 33% of his threes falling during the regular season, it can have you worried about him being a threat from deep and what this means for his game. If the Spurs are to have shooters around Castle, then this doesn't look like much of a problem, but if he's out there with other guys who thrive when attacking, and the defense starts to back off him slightly allowing him to shoot, this is where you can see things start to not work in his favor. But with it only being his second year going into his third, I don't think it's a major concern just yet, but it is something we should all keep our eye on. Let me know, do you think Stephon Castle and the San Antonio Spurs can make a deep postseason run, or will they fall short this upcoming season? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any content. I thank you all for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.